Good morning, everyone. I hope your cup is full and you are ready to join us for Cup Chat. Oh, Romey, everybody's got a cup this morning. So exciting. So before I introduce you, my special guest, I'm going to introduce you where my cup is from today. So today my cup is from New York. Like I said, many, many moons ago, I drink from a different cup from a different place every time. My sister sends them back. So it's kind of a cool thing. So New York is where my cup is from. So if you are a New York birder today, I am representing you. And joining us today are two more of our professional guides for birding the border, and that is Romey Swanson and Katie Smith-Hicks. Oh my goodness, I'm losing this morning. So how are y'all doing this morning?
Doing well, thank you.
Doing good.
Good. And Katie, you're joining us from Arkansas?
From Arkansas, Bismarck, Arkansas, just south of Hot Springs. That's where I live.
So you are traveling a little way to get to birding the border. But kind of go ahead and give us your background and where you maybe started birding.
Okay, well, I work for Texas A&M Natural Resources Institute, and obviously I work remotely, so I work from home. I started birding way back in college. I had a vertebrate zoology class, and the teacher was an ornithologist. And one of the things she had us do was learn bird calls for extra credit. And so she gave us a CD of bird calls, of 100 bird calls, and for every one you learned, you got extra credit. And I went home and I learned all 100 calls just like that because I just really enjoyed it. So I learned that I had an ear for the different bird noises. And once I learned those calls when I was out and about, I heard those birds everywhere and I knew what I was hearing and I was fascinated. And I did a little project with her on red-tailed hawks. And then I worked at a zoo in the bird department up in Omaha, Nebraska. And then when I graduated, I ended up, after I looked around trying to figure out what I wanted to do, because I was at school, but I ended up going to Australia and doing a research project there on hooded parrots. And the people that I was there with were huge twitchers. They were big birders. And all we did on our downtime was go look for birds, which Australia is a pretty awesome place to go just look for birds. So that's what we did all the time. And it was pretty much from then for that point forward that I was just, I'd like to just go birding because I found it fun and relaxing. And I've been doing it for fun ever since. So, and I do it for work too. So I ended up in graduate school and getting my master's, studying black-cap vireos. And I continue to do bird work in my PhD, and then not for my PhD, but while I was doing my PhD, and I even do bird work still now, here and again. So,
well, we're excited to have you join us. And so I think one of the really interesting pieces about you, Katie, is when you did your master's work or your PhD work on black-cap vireos, you did that at one of our birding sites.
Yes, I was at Devil's River State Natural Area, and then I also had some sites at Dolan Falls Preserve. So I spent 2 years, two summers out there, March through July, studying. Sorry, my Blue Jays are really loud. Studying black-cap vireos down there, and I love it in Southwest Texas. I just fell in love with the place, and so yeah, I was very excited to get the call to come help with this because it's got a big special place in my heart down there. The great birds, great area. So
good. We're excited to have you. Romey, most people in Texas kind of know who you are, just a little bit. So most Texas birders, so why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started? And I'm going to hate to tell you this, Romey, but the short version. We love you and we know you can talk, but we only have 30 minutes today.
Sure. Well, my story is not completely dissimilar from Kathryn's, but mine is I was working on my master's thesis. I was studying reptiles and amphibians, and as part of my thesis, I had to replicate survey effort throughout the seasons of the year. And as most people know, reptiles and amphibians are a little less active during the winter, and that caused for a little bit of boredom while I was running through my survey efforts. So I started to pay attention to the little flitting birds and bobs up in the trees that didn't have any leaves, which made it easier to study them. And because part of my master's thesis was being able to recognize frog call by their call, I started to learn the birds by their call, and from there I found out I had a bit of an ear for it, for ear ID of birds. And from there I just sort of launched, because there are so many different species of birds, and they can be very representative of the landscapes and ecology from which they're associated, and I found that to be very interesting. And so those sorts of associations create a fascination with me. It caused me to start traveling throughout the state and learning a little bit about the ecology of all the different birds and where they occur. There, that's my Wikipedia summary, pre-flash.
Well, we appreciate that, Romey. And kind of talking about, we're excited to host Birding the Border, and one of our main things about Birding the Border, which y'all know, is that we want it to be an experience for everyone. And part of that experience is growing as a birder, we believe. And so today we're going to have you reveal one of your secrets as a guide. Are you ready? We want to know what y'all think is a good ID trick or tip that we commonly overlook. Something that's maybe not right there on the top of their brain. It's not color, because you can't use that one. I mean, everyone uses color. So something a little more subtle that maybe we don't always think about.
Kathryn, you want to jump in on that one?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm gonna go with the noises and the calls, and it's something that you can do before you go out there. I don't know if that's allowed, but there are several websites you can go on to learn bird calls, and they'll even quiz you. And I think the Cornell website allow you to do that, and you'll have a huge leg up if you kind of go over there and listen to bird calls and go out there, because what will happen is you will hear birds that you wouldn't have even known were there otherwise. So you can go out birding all day and see a few birds, but you'll hear and find 3 times as many if you can hear them and you know what you're listening to. And once you start listening, even if you don't know what it is, then you can follow it and you can see it. So sometimes they'll just make little noises. So I think birding by ear is the way I bird. That's the way I find birds. So that's just my little tip, and you can go and learn that ahead of time before you're out there. And I think it's a little more distinctive than, some of the things you see when you look through your binoculars. So that's just the way I do it.
Are you going to be giving extra credit to your people in your group who study their bird calls and have all 100 memorized?
Yes. I'll make a list. I think I can do that. And learn
Katie,
the bird calls.
I know one of the ones you're talking about, and I can put these links down below for people that are watching, but one of them I know on the Cornell Bird Academy, there's the one that you can kind of listen. It will give you 3 songs and it shows you what they look like. And so for somebody like me that I kind of struggle with just learning by ear, to see that sonogram of how the song looks like can be really helpful. And so I know that's one of them, but then I think I'll have to find the other. Do you know off the top of your head, is it the Macaulay Library where you can limit to a particular region and then do kind of a quiz that's similar?
It's been a few years, but that sounds right. I think that's the one, the Macaulay Library.
I'm gonna have to look that up. I know that in the Macaulay Library you can sort by where you are, which is nice because sometimes birds kind of have a little bit of an accent depending on where they're located.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you want to know what they sound like in Texas specifically, or like in the Del Rio area, they may not have recordings for all the parts of Texas, but that can be helpful. But there's one of them too where you can quiz yourself and you can kind of say birds in my area, and I'll have to be sure to find that for people, unless maybe Romey knows which one.
I wonder if you're thinking about the Thayer's birding software.
I haven't tried that one.
I've never tried that one, but I know that one's out there too.
Well, I
that
know
one was
right
free
around
for a little while
beginning.
here, right?
What's that?
That one was free for a little. Maybe that's what you were about to say.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Is Thayer made it available for free right around the beginning of COVID. So it's a very powerful software for learning bird calls and bird ID by visual photographs and range maps and stuff like that.
I'm gonna look that one up right now so I can put that link on our Facebook too. So.
Another little tip with this hearing the songs. Sorry, that's my duck back there. Another little tip with hearing the songs. If you can visualize it, and then you can also come up with little sayings. That's how me and a few of my friends started to learn bird calls. Is you can give them a little like, chickadee says, "I'm a cutie," like those kind of things. And that kind of helps you remember it because you give words to it, right? And so that's just a little tip. If you have a hard time kind of associating birds with, I'm sorry, I have a whole farm of chickens and ducks. Oh, and here's one of them. So putting little words to it will help you a lot. So it's a good way to start.
And I think that's a great tip, Katie. And the one thing that I would add, as I was learning songs, I struggled a little bit because there's certain species that you can find that people will commonly say, well, this is how people remember that. And a lot of times those weren't helpful to me because somebody else had come up with them. And to me, it didn't sound like that. And especially like our white-eyed vireos in this area, some people say it sounds like they're saying quick with the beer check. Our ones here do not say that. Like they just say something different. It's not the right tempo. And so making up my own was really helpful. And not to say that you can't, that sometimes other people's aren't useful, but it can be really helpful to make up your own.
Yes.
Oh, look at the chicken. Oh, that's a pretty one.
This is Mona.
Oh, Mona. Oh, she's cute.
She's more of a pet.
All right, Romey, what is your maybe underutilized ID trick?
Well, what I suggest folks, particularly folks that are kind of starting off or don't have a deep well of experience to pull from, is to make sure you're carrying some form of field guide, whether it's a paper copy or something on your phone, but refer to the range maps whenever you're coming up with an ID or suggesting an ID. A lot of times the answer is a lot simpler than folks might be making it out. Oh, this bird that I saw in poor lighting through these binoculars that may not be the best for the conditions looked just like this picture from the book, but this picture is from the Aleutian Islands of Alaska only, the range. And so it's just not very likely that bird's going to occur in the Devil's River Valley of Valverde County. So refer to the range maps and let's eliminate some things that are unlikely and look for things that are more likely first. Not to say that rarities don't happen and vagrancy doesn't occur, but certainly it's a lot more difficult to suggest an ID that's so far out of range than not so.
Well, and Romey, I'm going to challenge you there. You must not have watched our last birding cup chat because we talked about field guides. And I went back to my elementary school days. All right. So if I'm a beginner birder and I have no clue what I'm looking at, and it's like using a dictionary. I can't spell either. Teacher says, use the dictionary, find how to spell it. If I could spell it, I could find it in the dictionary, but I can't spell it to find it in the dictionary. So what if you are starting out, you got your field guide and you have no clue where to start?
You start on page 1 and read the introductory material. There's a lot of great tools right there up front that people skip right through looking at the actual pictures of birds. I mean, honestly, I think that a person could acquire an incredible education just reading the introductory material of various field guides, which obviously, and I'm certainly guilty of it too, we all skip, but there's a lot of tips and tricks in there that someone a lot smarter than I have written.
That's a really good point, Romey, because that is something that the first time I used a field guide, I hadn't looked at the introduction material. And I remember the first time I looked at the introduction material and I was like, whoa, like there's so much good stuff in here. And it really, truly does walk you through like parts of identification. And a lot of them are just really well written. So that I think is a good tip for beginners is if you're going out and looking through field guides, and I said last week, but I really prefer the paper ones, like go to a bookstore if you can and open a couple ones and see which ones you like, and then take it home and read the introduction now and not right before you get to birding the border or, having not read the introduction at all.
Yeah.
I know. I still go back to I can't spell. It's hard to find stuff I can't spell. I hate it.
But at least with birds, they're grouped like a little bit.
Yeah. Well,
Like if you know it's a duck, like most people can tell if something's a duck versus not a duck, you know to go to the duck section. Whereas
Well,
like if you're
that is
positive that your word starts with an A, you go to the A section. It narrows it down
lots
a little
of
bit.
A's.
With
There are
with
lots
birds,
of A's.
right. Thankfully, instead of, you know, however many hundreds of thousands of words starting with A's, there's only a handful of ducks.
but you guys do some incredible work on your videos with the, you know, the shape and form and this and that. So, I mean, you know, just using the various tools available, but the field guide's one of them, but it's one of a suite to get comfortable with ID.
Aw, well, thank you for the compliment, Romey. We appreciate that. All right, so moving on as we keep cupping through Cup Chat is let's talk a little bit, and we asked our guides this last week as well, is for those people out there, those birders out there who have not birded with a professional guide, why is it such a big deal to me to share with the world how awesome y'all are? And what's the benefit of going birding with you guys? Just to put that into perspective of why we truly find it important here at Birding with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension to have a professional guide go out on all of our programs. So, Romey, you want to take off? I know we've done ladies first this whole time, but you know, you are the only man here. We'll let you go first.
Sure. Thank you. I think that, you know, you get some incredible benefits from working with the guide, and of course, a guide like in a festival like Birding the Border, it becomes pretty cost effective because hiring a guide outright can be pretty expensive, and not to mention all the travel and stuff. But you get to learn, you know, from someone that has hopefully a deep well of experience, familiarity with the area that you're birding, and all of that experience. You know, you get access to it. Particularly if you're a beginning birder, you're going to learn some of the mnemonics, some of those birds that are singing their names, like the chickadee that we were visiting about earlier. You're going to learn about habitat associations. You know, which birds do you expect to find in this particular patch of habitat, and I think that you know, that exposure makes everybody better. Anybody on a different level, just to see things through a different lens, somebody else's perspective, may be something that illuminates you on your path, and. So there's an incredible amount of value, but I like the festivals because you know, they're cost effective. You get access to multiple guides, pick your own adventure, and there's, you know, really no better way to learn than by doing with someone knowledgeable.
Yeah, that's a good point. I just want to highlight something Romey said there, is that every time I bird with someone different who knows more than I do, I learn something different. And so Katie's style of birding will be different from Romey's, from Brian and Martina that we talked with last week. There's things that they'll all have in common. And so you hear those tricks multiple times from multiple people, and that really helps. And then there's perspectives that they're going to have that are different. And so I do think that's one of the fun things about Birding the Border, is you can get different guides and learn in those different ways. And now I will mention, for our beginner track, you've got the same guide for 3 days if you're on that track. But I think that's nice because then that guide also gets to know you as well. And so he can kind of learn, you know, where you're at and the nuances of what you're comfortable with and where your experience is. And that kind of gives them a little bit more hands-on focus with you. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'll follow up with that. I agree with everything Romey said. You do, for me, every time I bird with somebody different, I learn something new. And I didn't, you know, you don't realize what you're not doing until you're with somebody who does it. And so, yeah, you learn a lot that way. And I want to say too, with the Birding on the Border, you know, you go birding and you get to see lots of birds, lots of awesome birds. But you also, depending on the guide, get to learn different things about the area, kind of the ecology of the area. So I think, you know, to get to know a bird, you need to get to know their ecology. So it's not just about looking at a bird and identifying it. If you learn something about that bird, which a bird guide can help you do, if you learn something about their ecology, you're more likely to remember that bird, I think. And it's really fun to learn about the different birds and not just identify them. Now, I say that I've met Twitchers that don't care about learning anything about a bird. They just want to put their eyes on it and mark it off and go on. But I think you get a lot out of learning something. So also about the area, the properties, how the properties, the history of the properties. I mean, you can get a lot out of that too. And Birding on the Border offers that, and it's really cool. So.
Katie, you jumped right into my next question, so I'm going to let you finish it up, okay? So we talk a little bit about, we're excited to have y'all obviously be guides at Birding the Border, and talking about maybe one thing that you are looking forward to or excited about with the Birding the Border experience. And I think one thing you hit on the head was the history and learning about the area, because we're not going to every birding hotspot in Val Verde County. Actually, I would argue that we're not even going to some hotspots in Val Verde County, because the places we are going are private areas or restricted areas that people can't get to. So they can't really become a huge birding hotspot because they're not birded frequently in terms of just having regular public access. So that's something we're super excited to share. And I think, Katie, one thing you said that really hits home for me is that I'm so excited to share some of the history of our local ranchers and landowners here in the area. So that's why I'm excited. So now that I've answered my own question, Katie, what's maybe one thing that you're really looking forward to at Birding the Border? And if you default to your last answer, you can do that as well.
Yeah, talking about the local properties it's always fun. It's fun to meet the landowners. They have great stories, and just learning about the properties. But honestly, what I'm looking forward to is meeting the birders. I enjoy meeting them, getting to know them, and where are they from? What's their history of birding? I think it's just so fun to meet people that are also interested in birding. So up here in Arkansas, I don't meet a lot of people that are interested. I haven't gotten to the circles of birding circles here yet, and I'm kind of rural, so it's kind of hard to get to Little Rock for that, because that's where most of them are. So it'll be nice to be amongst other people who have similar interests as me. So that's another perk, is you could meet other people that like to bird and make friends for life. So I mean, I think that's a huge draw to you're spending time with these people, going out to these properties, learning new things. But yeah, so learning about the properties, learning about the history of the area, and meeting people that have similar interests. What I'm looking forward to.
That's a good one. Romey, same question. What are you looking forward to?
Well, I have to say that I'm just so excited about this festival and the work that you guys have done, connecting opportunities to see birds on private lands, on ranches that are stewarded by some of the best landowners in the state. Another thing I'm really excited about is that we have so much representation through birding festivals and birding hotspots on the eastern half of the state, but so few. I mean, we have some iconic landscapes on the western side of the state, but such limited access. And you all working with your community of landowners have opened up some gates that otherwise many folks may never be able to get behind. So to be able to hear the stories of stewardship and conservation and management tied to the birds that we're actually seeing, the stories from the landowners, and to do it all in a place that otherwise many of us may not visit regularly, it's an incredible opportunity, and that's purely why I am most excited to work with you all in this particular festival.
Well, thank you. I'm excited that y'all are excited about getting on those private lands that we've worked so hard and diligently with those landowners. Maureen, you want to add anything to that as I give you as we wrap up in 5 minutes?
I totally had a thought and I lost it. Say your wrap up and then I'll say mine.
Oh, that's great. Chuck me under the bus.
Yeah.
Well, so we will kind of wrap it up today, and we'll talk a little bit about where Romey and Katie are guiding. So Romey is going to be guiding at Fort Clark Springs. He's going to be guiding at the Zuberbeeler Ranch. This is one of our privately owned ranches that has no access at this point other than through birding the border. So Zuberbuehler's Ranch is on the far western part of the county, and this is going to be more of your desert birds. It's a vastly different habitat than I'd say anything else. Wouldn't you, Maureen? Maybe similar-ish to Devil's River State Natural Area, but heavy on the ish.
Yeah,
Very heavy on the
really
ish.
pretty different.
Yeah. Yeah. Fort Clark is on the easternmost part of Kinney County, and that's a private gated community that we're going to get to go in and bird. And then Romey's also leading on the Devil's River State Natural Area, which is our feature trip this year, to see our feature bird, which is the hybrid parula. And the Devil's River State Natural Area is a public place that you could go and bird. However, I've got several tips and tricks here as to why you want to go birding with us at Devil's River State Natural Area. And Romey, you can thank me later. One, we will be driving past the gate. No walking. Well, there is walking, but no walking miles and miles and miles. And then the second piece of that is we have the unique opportunity to bird at some restricted areas that are not open to the public that you don't typically get to go. So we're going to be seeing some different parts of that state natural area where the birds are good that typically you don't get to go. So those are yours, Romey. I know you can thank me later. I know you're excited now. And Katie, you are going to be guiding at Dobbs Ranch, which is, I think you also did some of your research there, correct?
I helped another graduate student do her research out there. So I've been out there several times to do surveys and research and band.
So we're excited about that property. And so Katie's going to really be trying to help you find the golden sheik at Dobbs Run and black-cap vireos. And then Katie is also going to be guiding Tularosa Road, which is a beautiful landscape in Kinney County. And it is, it's a unique spot that you wouldn't normally find unless you went hunting for it. And then the last place Katie is going to be guiding is McKenna Ranch. So this is going to be our private ranch in the northern part of Val Verde County. And we saw blackcaps there the other day. Buried buntings. Help me out, Maureen.
It's our owl spot.
Oh,
not that we'll be out there at night, but that's where we saw the western and the eastern screech owl when we were out there with Brian.
So we're excited about those spots. If you have any questions about any of our locations or our guides, make sure you reach out to us. We're more than happy to make suggestions or help you pick what you want, or recommend any of our fabulous guides based upon what your level is or where you want to go. So Maureen, now you find your thought?
Yeah, I remembered. Yeah. But I was going to say, Katie made me think of it when she was just talking about the history and the areas, is that all of our guides, something that we have specifically looked for when we were looking for guides, is all of our guides and our birding buddies are overall naturalists, and they're not just interested in checking birds off the list. So if you are interested in getting as many species as you can, don't worry, because we have that too. And I think last week, Brian and Martina were debating a little bit about which of them was going to get the most species. And actually, Romey, you're in on this because it's really kind of a site debate, because I think we've got Fort Clark Springs on the one hand and then the Duck Pond. I think those are going to be our two top contenders for the most species. So Romey, since you've got a day at Fort Clark Springs, you could be one of the ones to potentially bring in the most species. But
you could be Brian.
You could be Brian, yeah.
At his own home turf.
Yeah, right. Wow. That's where he grew up.
Don't do that. Yeah. I don't want to see him cry.
But I think all of our guides really have an appreciation for the area, and more than just the birds, but the whole ecosystem. And Romey mentioned that he was studying herps when he got into birds, and Romey is an excellent herper. And I think, Emily, is Katie paired with Terry?
Yes, Katie's birding buddy is also a herper.
Katie's birding buddy is a big herper and also knows, I think, all the plants. I don't know that I've asked him a plant yet that he doesn't know what it is. And so, and he does the butterflies and dragonflies too. So a lot of our guides just have that broad interest that will give you a big appreciation for the area. So even if you're a beginner birder, but you love, flowering plants or butterflies, or there's those other interests, our guides will appreciate those as well, and help you learn about some of those things that are in the area too.
Oh my gosh, I wish we had more than 30 minutes because you just made me think of something. Speaking of Dobbs Run, where Katie is guiding, they have several, so the golden cheeks there, but they also have snowbells, which are endangered plant species.
Yep.
Those are at Dolan Falls too.
They're at Dolan Falls.
Devil's River. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so, I guess we should give the heads up and the hope. So typically on our Devil's River trips, we have been fortunate enough to partner with the Texas, or the Nature Conservancy, to be able to go on and bird at the Nature Conservancy property. And while we have really enjoyed that partnership, we are still discussing the ability to have that partnership here in 2021 with Birding the Border due to COVID regulations. And so we're very hopeful that by next April that's something that they can allow us to do. But we've really appreciated that partnership, and we're very hopeful that we'll be able to continue that partnership. But at this point, as with most things in the world, there is a big question mark. If you think that we know many people might have questions about traveling or what we are going to do in light of COVID-19, and especially in terms of April in 2021, we have already addressed the majority of those concerns with our administration and our local officials. And that is at the bottom of our website. And we do feel very confident, barring any major changes, that we will be able to host Birding the Border 2021 in light of the pandemic. So if you're questioning or have questions about how we're going to handle those are on our website. And we do ask that y'all understand that this is a fluid situation. And so things could change. And we're hoping to have a great Birding the Border 2021 with whatever regulations we might have to follow. Oh, look, she joined us. Oh, Mona. She's so cute. So anyways, have a great Wednesday. Thank you, Romey and Katie, for joining us. Next week, we will be joined by, Maureen, I know you're excited about this.
Yeah, I am. The guide who's leading our beginner track is Bill Sane, and Emily and I went to go out and do some birding with him last week, 2 weeks ago. We went to the duck pond, and that was super fun. And then Dorian Anderson, who's going to be our keynote speaker. A lot of birders know him as the guy who did a big year all across the U.S. only from bike. He did not get in any motorized vehicle for an entire year and got, I believe, over 600 species all across the U.S. Just using, the power of his own body to get around. Which is pretty incredible. So yes, he's very fit. And he's leading our photography focused tours. And so the two of them, kind of our special focus tours, are going to be speaking with us next week. So
anyways, well, thank you so much, everybody. We hope you had a great morning cup of coffee. Thank you again, Katie and Romey, for joining us. And we'll talk to everybody soon. Bye.